PGA Nation. We are back, and we are back with another round. I guess technically it's the same round, but another draft in the first round of the PGA Madness. We were having a lot of fun. We've had some people already win in advance. We have a star-studded lineup lined up for you tonight. And of course, it's going to be a star-studded lineup as we approach what I would probably say is the second biggest tournament of the year, the U.S. Open. We are going to the legendary Shinnecock. Spence, how pumped are you for this week?
U.S. Opens are always my favorite major every single year. And I do want to say about last week, we'll recap the results here in a second, but there is no such thing as a bad group. Every single group, we were very aware and we tried to add all the names in the space that everybody wanted to see. And whether they're ended up signing up for it or not, all the big guns and all the big names got asked, but this group has a little bit more star power than even some of them. I don't necessarily agree with AI seeding across the board, and there's been discussion of where everybody should have been seeded, but Tambo's the number 2 seed, and we'll get to him in a second. I don't think he drew a great side of the bracket. This is as star-studded as you can get. So I'm really excited to do this show tonight. Just a quick recap of last week. You look at Mayo's group, advancements from Cust. Cust won that group, and then second place was Ben Raza. In the group that we hosted, Joel, Dustin Sweetelson won. Byron ended up coming in second. I talked to Byron about it a little bit. Byron is one of those defensive March Madness sort of a teams where he only got 3 people through. I know that there were some people upset that Blickel ended up scoring as many points as he did, and he didn't get through. The name of the game, though, is survive in advance. You can only beat who you have in front of you, and these 4 are going to have a tall task this week to try to get to the next round.
You got to survive in advance. I love that. And the question is, can someone catch lightning in a bottle like the Knicks and win the whole thing? That is the hope. The Knicks were able to do it, which I was super excited about. But we have to count a golf champion. So we've been teasing you about the big names that we have lined up for tonight, but let's bring them on as we get ready for this draft. So, Spence, who are you bringing on first?
So I kind of spoiled the lead on this one. Number 2 seed in this contest, co-founder of Ship It Nation, one of the best DFS minds in the world. You can find him on X and DFS sites at Toe Tag and Tambo. Tyler Tamboline, how are you, man?
I'm good, boys. Good to be back in the saddle. Appreciate you doing all this. And like you said, I agree with Spence on a couple different things. One, my favorite major, I always say the Masters, but then I go back and forth. U.S. Open, I do love. So it's to me, I get the Masters, the nostalgia, the first major of the year, but this one is always fun for me. I love it, which is funny. Being a Canadian, of course, last week was our Open, but this week, much more excited for this event, the contest, the tournaments, and then also, man, the groups are insane. And today I did not draw anything easy about this 2 seed. Getting this group is insanity. So we'll see how it goes, but I love this crew that we got, and I'm excited to get down to it with you guys.
Well, before we move on, quick question for you. Since we're talking Masters and U.S. Open, do you have a preference on the major tournament that repeats the same course every year, or the fact that you get a different test every year? It's a new course, a new challenge.
Yeah, it's a great question. That's what makes this so tough. Like I said earlier, we all love the Masters because of Augusta National Golf Club, the first major of the year. Look at it. The fact that you can't even get to the damn thing. Most of us, right? We're people trying to win tickets or get events or pull strings to get in. So there's that factor of it. But just the fact that the U.S. Open is always fun, no matter what, I don't mind. Obviously, they rotate courses. I was talking with Mayo the other day about Chambers Bay, about Spieth and DJ, and how Spieth thought he was coming down to go into a playoff. Meanwhile, DJ's 3-putting this thing, and Spieth's just holy shit, the game, it's over now. We almost got, during both of their prime sort of the final, it would have been one of the final Monday playoffs, right? The 18-hole playoffs. So I don't know. I like that it rotates and goes to different events, but these courses are all sick, every single one of them. And this is no different this week at Shinnecock. So I'm excited for this.
Right.
That tournament in 2015, the most money that ever swung against me on any Sunday of any event ever. I needed Dustin across the board. That was heart-wrenching.
Yeah, it was a crazy event. The DFS OGs know Head Chopper over at Roto Grinders. He's the man, and he had a $900,000 swing on that DJ 3-putt, dropping the Millie down to second for 100K. So that's a story, but I think he's since won 2 Millie makers. So shout out to him, real OG, one of the best to ever do it. So got to love that. But a lot of money was swinging on that 3-putt on Sunday, but that course was crazy. And again, all these courses are good. I'm excited for this every single time, every year for the US Open. And, PGA Championship, I made fun of it the last one, but like I get why that one falls down the board for most. The Open is still exciting to me as well, though, too.
Yeah.
All right, Spence, who we bringing on next?
All right, number 15 seed, a little underseeded if you would ask me, but host and analyst at CBS Sports HQ. Joel, I think this says former co-host of this show that we're doing tonight. WSOP main event casher, lawyer, who I would consider the real man of the bracket competition. You can find some of those throughout the year where you can vote on things as your favorite candy, best cereal, many more items. Our friend, as I said, former co-host of this exact show, Sia Nejad. How are you doing, man?
I'm so great. It's always great to be on with you two. And then I get to be on with Tambo, and we're bringing a couple other friends of mine on this show. This is really cool. Like you said, I used to do this show with you all, and I think it's a great show. I think it's a great concept, and I'm glad to still be a part of it.
I definitely feel the nostalgia having you back on the screen with us tonight. We've missed you, but we're super pumped to get a draft out of you tonight. So, before we move on, have you been playing a lot of DFS this year for the PGA? And this follow-up, I'll let you answer that first before the follow-up question.
I have been playing a lot of DFS. Actually, not as much. Investment-wise, it hasn't been as much this year, but the volume is still pretty high for me.
Okay. Do you feel like, because me and Spencer have our own answer, that you have a big edge here because you're so familiar with the show and you've drafted with us and have been a part of the show for many years?
I really don't. I don't, because like strategically, I'm kind of, it's not that I'm flying blind, but like, I don't like map out a lot of stuff. And so I'm just going to play off of you guys and see what happens. But I mean, I feel like it's pretty straightforward. So no, I'd like to think I have an edge, but I don't think I actually have an edge.
I will say this, whether this ends up being correct or wrong on it, I feel pressure. Like, I don't know if Joel feels the same way. Like, having an affiliation with this show, this is something that Joel and I have done every week and you've done in the past. Like, some of my favorite shows that I ever put together was with the three of us 3-4 years ago when we would produce this content. I think Joel's question is kind of where like some of that hesitation comes into play, in the nerve-wracking feel that there's an expectation that because you have a background on this show, well, you must advance. And like that pressure alone kind of comes into play.
You know what eases that pressure though? What eases it is that you're about to bring on Chris and Joe and Tambo. I don't think people are like, oh, like, see it. Like, I don't have an edge on these guys. Like, I'm sitting next to Tambo here. Like, he's probably saying the pressure's on him. See, I'm getting in his head already. The pressure's on him because there's an expectation that he's going to run the table on guys like me. So I'm just kind of cruising right now.
See, you got one edge here for sure, buddy. No matter what, I'll tell you this: the edge in the fashion game. We're rocking jerseys, hoodies, old t-shirts. This guy's coming in with the button-up collar on, ready to roll. So we love it, my man. You're always looking good, looking fresh. Appreciate you, but this is gonna be a lot of fun, man. Happy to be back on with you.
So,
all right, guys.
The only bad news I'll give you to that is a certain someone a couple days ago who happens to be 7'5" said he was getting in the Knicks head, and we saw how that turned out. So maybe a bad omen to start.
Yeah, that's a De'Aaron Fox thing. That's not a Wemby thing. I'll throw that out there.
We'll have to hear about some of your takes. I know you attended that Knicks game, and I'm sure everybody would like to hear a little bit more about that throughout the show. But let's bring on the number 18 seed here. This is also someone I've had the pleasure to work alongside in the past. Host of the longtime running Preferred Lines. You can find his current work on sites like the PGA Tour, Golf Digest. He's all over the place, Joel. He's pretty much on every network that you look at now. Get his takes on X at Tour Picks. Joe Idone, thanks for joining us tonight.
I can't stop smiling backstage. Joel, I know we've never done a show before, but Tambo, Sia, Spencer, I miss you guys. I miss the times when I used to have a rotating guest on every week and I got to see you guys more. So I'm super excited about this. You know, my bio says a lover of long shots. I am that guy tonight, especially going up against these two, but in an event that breeds, I got a couple things working for me. One, cussed one last week, so I feel like I got a chance. Two, this event is carnage and chaos, and I feel like anything can happen. So if there was one event that I could pick to go against these two titans, it'd be the U.S. Open.
Boom. He's calling his shot. He wants the U.S. Open. He said the U.S. Open is where I have the edge, and I'm taking you down because I know no one's going under par. I guess that's a question I have for tonight, but not yet. Well, we have more people to bring on, so I won't derail us any further because we do have to get to a draft tonight as well.
Well, if there is an advantage to be had here, I mean, technically, if we want to look at somebody who's actually won a matchup, like it's not you, Joel, it's not me, it would be our number 32 seed here, who ended up qualifying through the play-in game, took out Biggie Smalls in that contest, president of Rise and Fire, somebody who dismantled to the next round here, Chris Ebon. What's up, Chris?
I'm doing great. How you guys doing? I'm just the wild card here. I've done content with Joe and Sia, never with Tambo, but I love what he did with Ship It Nation. I've been part of that before, so I love that platform for the most part. But I feel like I'm like the Texas of the tournament. You know, I'm that plane that no one wants to see, and here I am, and, you know, I'm going to make it happen.
I love that. I love that. I want to hear from the audience as well. We're going to have a draft. We're going to see the results, but audience, chime in. Who do you predict is going to win this draft? As a quick reminder, in case you're new or tuning into the show for the first time, we are going to have a draft tonight. First, we're going to pick the draft order. So Spencer is going to spin the wheel. The first person that it lands on will get to choose where they want to pick. So you don't have to pick first. If you want to pick somewhere else, you can pick what draft slot you want. The reason that's valuable is because we're doing a snake draft. So if you pick first, then you won't pick again until the last pick in the second round. So it's trying to be as even as possible. A lot of people prefer to pick in the 3 or 4 slot if they don't have a guy in the front that they're really looking to get on their team. The other caveat with King of the Draft is you have to actually afford your lineup. So you can't just take all the best players in the field. You have to make sure you can actually play a lineup on DraftKings that can afford each player. We will track the prices as we go. You can see what you have left per pick to make sure you're able to do that by the end of the draft. All right, Spence, walk us through it. You're spinning the wheel here for who will get to choose first where they want to draft tonight, correct?
Yep, let's hit the spin and let's get this going. All right, Ebon. Hey, Joel, do you want to, I don't know if you have the ability to do this, by the way. Do you want to take you and I off the screen and get Idone and Ebon on the screen in our place right now?
The problem with us taking us off the screen is once we're off, we're muted too.
Can you rearrange it?
We could do this.
Ooh.
There you go. Nice.
E-bomb smiling. I don't know. I don't think it's because of the arrangement though. It's because it's on the screen.
All right, I'm picking over here.
Yep.
All right, I'm going to take the 4th pick.
That's really interesting. That's the back-to-back weeks that the person who's had the choice has picked the number 4 spot.
I did it last week. I'm not changing it. I'm going to see what these guys pick, and I'm going to play off from there.
All right, well, let's remove you from this mix here, and we will spin these other 3. I have an opinion. I'm going to keep it to myself for right now of what I would like, but as we spin this, does anybody have a very strong lean of where they want to be?
I wanted that 4, so very sharp. This is an event with a ton of carnage. We know who the guys are up top, but there's the thoughts of like having to build Scotty lineups and what those look like if you do get the first pick. So with that said, I'll be taking the first pick now that the 4 picks go. So shout out to E-Bomb, but yes, I will take first.
For whatever it's worth, now that it's been selected, that is what I would have wanted if I was in this group. I think there's a lot of different concepts and ways to play this tournament. You're going to hear whether you want to go the Scotty route, you want to go a more balanced route. Like, pricing is always so soft that there's so many various degrees and there's going to be carnage. But, you know, as I spin this and we get these last 2 spots in, Joe, Sia, any leans of where you guys want to be at this point?
You know, I didn't want the first pick. So, I mean, not because I think it's a bad pick. I wanted like 3 or 4. So now that it's on me, I'll take 3.
Apparently the first person who chimes in and who says where they want to be, the wheel just like automatically goes to them.
I'm good with it. Let it come to me. I'll take the 2-hole.
Joe, would the 2-hole have been your last selection if you were landed on first, or?
I was going to go, Frank. I was going to go fourth last, just to kind of see where other people are doing and try to gauge the strategy a little bit of this whole thing. But I'm comfortable where I'm at. We'll make it work.
All right. All right.
There's enough ways to get yourself through. I do tend to agree with Joe on this, though. I think it's probably like you want to be first, you want to be last, probably rather be third to come back sooner. That second's the weird spot. But look, like we said, it's survive in advance. All you have to do is get yourself to the next round, and all 4 spots have the ability to do so.
I'll start the draft by apologizing. My graphic got messed up when we had 6 people's screens and I didn't update it properly. So we're not going to have a graphic tonight. So we're going to have to draft on a Google Doc. I hope you guys are okay with it. Still works the same, I promise. And Tambo, you got the first pick.
Yeah, I'm good with the Google Doc.
Okay.
This is, like you said, that's just kind of why I wanted the 4th pick, just so I could see what everybody else did from a roster construction perspective. But I've done some research coming in already. This is the 2nd or 3rd show this week, another one tomorrow. So I'm actually going to start with Xander Schauffele, 10-1. I think, again, I know that Rory, Scotty, all those guys are up top. I think they're all great plays and picks and all of that. But I'm thinking about the total roster construction. You know, my mantra, DFS is how, not who. I'm going to start it with Xander. I can go a couple different directions with this, but I think it's the furthest I'm willing to go down the board with a first pick. But I'm good with not having Rom, et cetera, above. And I don't know how many people want Bryce and Cam Young this week, so that's more of like a tournament thing. But for this, Xander Schauffele, the record is strong here. The play is fine. The price is just too low. So I'm going to go with Xander.
I wasn't expecting Xander to be the first overall pick, but I do like Xander this week too. I just wasn't expecting to go one. So great pick, Tambo. Xander off the board, an elite golfer at a relatively reasonable price for this tournament. Joe, with the 2nd pick, who are you going to take?
I'm going to go, and I think this is probably going to be a familiar theme for me as someone who's more of a better than a DFS player in general. I'm going to go with a guy that I bet early in the week. He was actually my first pick I took of the week when we recorded the show on Sunday night. I'm going to take Matt Fitzpatrick.
Oh, no, you did not.
Here's the thing. I love his price, and I'm curious. Actually, I was almost not going to take him, but the fact that Tambo is so much sharper than me and took Xander, because I was a little bit worried about the tee time wave. So kind of throwing it back to Tambo. If he's not concerned with the afternoon wave, then I'm not concerned with the afternoon wave. So I know that they could absolutely rip wind tomorrow, but I think there's a chance it could even – like they might even push this round back or something could get canceled and then it could end up actually working in our favor. I think the upside's there. I'm going to take him at a good price point. And given that I don't have to worry about ownership in this particular competition, I'm going to grab him.
Matt Fitzpatrick, another great pick. He's going to be one of my favorite plays. Like, I think my one question is before we move off this is we heard from you, Joe, but is anyone drafting right now super concerned about the weather, and will you be playing a strong weather edge this week? If yes, speak up.
Well, actually, I'm probably not, to be honest with you, because I'm kind of in the field with Joe that I think this thing might get pushed in the first round. And I think a lot of people, I mean, I'm not a huge DFS player per se. This is kind of a different game because it's kind of like heads up, so to speak. But I think this could get pushed. And I think a lot of people might go like heavy early wave. And I think that could be a big issue, you know.
I agreed. I'm gonna put this one on you, Sia, because of my years working with you, Sia, every single week when we were in a group chat, you were consistently asking, do we have a weather edge heading into the tournament? So now that we know there is going to be significant wins, are you playing that weather edge?
Yeah, the problem is being right on the weather edge. And I know I'm pretty sure what Tambo would say is, build for both waves and sets and things of that nature, which is how I would do it too. As far as like this is concerned and betting, yeah, I am worried about it, and I do favor the AM PM. But last I checked, that PM was starting to creep into the AM a little bit from a timing standpoint. So I got to be honest, when I'm doing the legwork on the weather, I'm usually wrong. I was going to take Fitz there too. So I am, just like Joe, I'm a little afraid of the PM guys. But I was still going to take Fitz because I just figured the weather might change up a little bit. They might get pushed off the course. There might be a delay into Friday, in which case the PM guys would be in good shape. So, yeah, I'm worried about it, but I just don't feel like I have the answer to the question yet.
Yeah, I would just say quickly that I think, like, again, we're trying to play a game here. So I was like, do I want to give the whole strategy, like, go through all of it? But I think it's important just to note it. If you do have a portfolio that you're playing, I definitely recommend it, because even if they get pulled off the course, there's the watering of the greens conversations. There's so many different factors that, if you have enough lineups that you can make a decision like that, and I think it's important to kind of spread it out a little bit from that perspective, but it's also tough to figure out. It looks like just a ton of wind no matter what. It doesn't look to let up. So it's like if they do stay out there or anything like that, you can definitely just see it where it's just, sort of a moot point and you end up going on to, mixed lineups. But for this, I'm just trying to take the best on the board for building the best possible lineup I can, because as you get one lineup and it's anybody's game, I'm going to be a lot more careful of like trying how aggressive does the build look is what I'm thinking about more than the waves for one particular lineup here.
Ooh, all right. I love that. See, you can't take Matt Fitzpatrick anymore. You got the third pick. Who you taking?
So I'm in a scary spot right now because I did have at least a strategy. It was predicated on taking Fitz first and somebody else potentially in that range. So now I'm kind of like, I'm stalling, just so you guys know right now, because I want to see, I'm not going to do the change up move. I'm going to take somebody that people are going to hate as a first overall pick or first round pick. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Tommy Fleetwood. Yeah, I'm doing it. Tommy Fleetwood. The finishing positions lately have actually been pretty good. He's starting to round into form into 2026. Approach play has been a little sketchy, but I do like Tommy Fleetwood. First of all, at Shinnecock, obviously a long time ago in 2018, he was good, very good, especially in round 4. But I just think on difficult tracks, Tommy Fleetwood's that type of guy that can plod along and, get an even par score, which is going to be great here. So I think Tommy is a little bit more reliable than people think right now. So, and I do think he has upside at Shinnecock specifically. So I reluctantly take Tommy, who happens to be in the AM wave, by the way.
See, I like Tommy Fleetwood this week too, and for the same reason. He doesn't really have to go out there and go 15 under to win the tournament. He just has to go out there and not mess up while other guys blow it, and he can just stay at the top, and that's Fleetwood's game. And I think it's like the opposite, where it's like, he's not going to go out there and shoot like this credible score, even though he shot, what did he break the U.S. Open record the last time he played here on round 4? But like that didn't matter because he wasn't going to catch the leader. He just needs to stay around the top while the other guys bogey their way out of it. And I think you get a really good result from Tommy. So I'm with you. Same reasoning. I like Tommy Fleetwood a lot this week. All right, E-Bomb, you got 2 here. You wanted the 4th pick. You're in the SOT. Where are you going from here?
I'm going to go with one of the big guns. I feel like this is a spot where I would have seen something like that. I do like that Xander pick a lot because I feel like it's a real safe play, especially with, just only 4 guys going at it. But I'm going to take Jon Rahm. I don't really care that he's in the PM. He's playing fantastic. He's U.S. Open champion. He's just really solid. I think he's going to really thrive in this situation. I know people have questioned his, live playing and everything that goes along with that, but I like Rahm here. I think he gets a top 5 here this week, so I'll be more than happy to take Jon Rahm.
Jon Rahm off the board. Surprisingly, after a whole first round, the most expensive player finally going in the 4th pick. Not usually how this turns out, but which is maybe why it was smart to take the 4th pick. So nice selection there. And then you got one more here. Who are you going with the 1st pick in the 2nd round?
I'm going to go down the board here. This is not going to be a normal theme, I don't feel like, but it looks like it is right now. I'm taking another live guy. I'm taking Cam Smith. His value is really good. He's been playing unbelievable. The approach play's gotten a lot better. If this wind really picks up, he's been still incredible around the green, and his putter is lights out. So if he's going to save pars and have chances for birdies, he's just been playing a lot better. He's been playing more of like a serious golfer. So I appreciate that. And for that kind of value to save my roster, I'll take Cam Smith.
Every single group is going to be different in the way that we see these picks come in. And like from a game theory perspective, Tambo going straight to the number 1 pick and doing what he did with the way that this has played out, I think it changed the entire trajectory of the draft, and it kind of caused everything to be different here. So we will see if this continues down through these next couple picks. And before we get to your pick, Sia, I know you have a lot of things that you have interest in, and I think we share a lot of those commonalities across the board. We both have done poker in the past. We talked about your main event cash. We're both into music also. I'm going to ask you a question here. I don't think you've probably ever been asked this on air, but I would be curious to hear your response. So, there's the high end. We don't even have to go to rappers necessarily. I was going to kind of go down the rapper route because I know we both like hip hop and all of that, but there are a lot of musicians that you may like, or I may like, that the general public would view it as an embarrassing choice of somebody that you seem to like more than the general public. If I was to ask you the question, who do you find in your playlist that you are listening to that if somebody heard the answer that you feel the need to have to explain yourself of why you're listening to that person?
Okay, well, first of all, from a hip hop rap standpoint, like this isn't not embarrassing by any means, but I think Nelly is like higher on the list than a lot of people do.
100%.
That's one where I'm always like making the argument on behalf of Nelly. But if you're talking about like, because like I'll be the first to tell you, I like boy bands and things and groups of that nature. I like that type of music. I like all types of music. The band that, how am I forgetting their name? They sing "Sucker for You." What's that band?
The Jonas Brothers?
The Jonas Brothers. There you go. I don't know why that's the song that came to my head. The Jonas Brothers. That would be something that would be something I would play where people would be like, you listen to the Jonas Brothers? And I would proudly say, yes, I listen to the Jonas Brothers.
I like the Jonas Brothers myself. I agree 100% with your Nelly take. I think he's massively underrated. I don't understand the take. Like, there's so many unique voices of the 90s and the early 2000s where Nelly, Ludacris, I mean, there's a lot of these T.I., there's a lot of these names that maybe don't get the limelight that they deserve on that. When we flip it back around, we may continue this conversation. There's some names I have in mind, but let's continue the draft here. Sia, tell us who your next pick is.
Okay, first of all, I love that question, and like maybe I'll think of some other names, but the name I'm going to give out right now, and when Chris said, "Oh, I'm going to go to a live player," I really deflated because I thought it was going to be another Joe Idone, Matt Fitzpatrick situation. I'm taking Patrick Reed. I thought that's where he was going to go, and I'm not saying Cameron Smith is a worse pick or a better pick, but I really want Patrick Reed on my team when conditions are going to be tough. He is an absolute dog, and the short game is absolutely there, an absolute shot maker. And for the record, 2026 went over to the Euro Tour and won 2 tournaments. Second place in another one. Comes over to Aronimink, to Augusta, T12, T10. He's just a big game hunter at this point, or at least that's where he stands right now. I think Patrick Reed is potentially live to win this tournament, but I definitely think top 10 and top 20 are very realistic. Love his upside. Give me Patrick Reed.
Yeah, I really like what you've done to start this build with Fleetwood and Reed, and I agree with you. I think there's hidden win equity that people might not see with it, and very interesting on this show. This is the second straight week that we've gotten through about 6 picks here, and everybody's sitting at about the same projected total of how much money they have left. And, you know, we've talked about the strategy that's already ensued, and we saw Tambo set this thing off with where we have it now, and then Joe with the Fitzpatrick pick seems to have ruffled feathers again. And as I kick this to you, Joe, for the question here, any of these picks that have gone off the board, let's say through the Sia and E-Bomb picks that you would have liked on your team that you were planning to take with your next selection? If not, where are you going with this pick?
Definitely high on Patrick Reed this week. Cameron Smith is another one that John kind of sold me on our show. I know that I probably missed the best of that number from a betting perspective, but intriguing under 7K there. I'm happy with kind of where it fell to me because another guy that I bet that I've had circled, I actually had a future on this guy for 2 or 3 months now. I'm going to take Russell Henley at 8,000, another probably overly popular guy that may not be the best in a large format GPP contest to stack these two guys together based on the ownership. I think they're going to, accumulate, but I don't think he's going to miss a fairway. I was heavy on Russ at Aronimink, and that did not turn out well. And then he won a few weeks later. I just think that, you know what? I took a lot away from his Masters performance where I felt like he kind of got aggressive and charged on Sunday, and the putts didn't drop. But what impressed me most was he was rolling them and they were going 2 to 3 feet past the hole versus normally Russ Henley was leaving those putts 2 to 3 feet short late on Sundays. So he's getting them to the hole. I believe in his upside. I believe in his ability. I think this is a decent course fit for him. So I'm going to take Henley, Fitzpatrick 1 and 2 and feel pretty good about it.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of made fairways, as you talked about with Henley. I know the industry as a whole has gotten much more under this belief that Russell Henley is a top 10 player in the world. That's not necessarily something that was the viewpoint in the past. I've kind of been beating that drum for a really long time now. I think this is an ideal course fit for him. A name that if you are looking for a first-time major winner, he has to be at the very top or at least very near the top of that list. So like the Russell Henley pick, You talked about the ownership that you have. I think one, there's a lot of ways to get different. Two, you got to beat two people here. And I think that kind of plays into what you are doing. But all right, Tambo, you started this off with Xander. We are in a position now to where I don't want you to give too much of the strategy. I know that there's a game theory that goes into this, but any surprises for you at this point? I don't want to lead the witness with this question because it's one of those things where I don't want to influence the draft for the future, but any surprises on the way that this has gone so far?
I think you said it earlier. I definitely think that me taking sort of what looks like a balanced approach, at least to start with. We'll see how it goes in a minute, but just to note that, that kind of set it off where people were like, oh, and again, it's being at the US Open. Like we talked about earlier, it's like, okay. And then like you said earlier too, people, knowing DFS a little bit and thinking about, well, yeah, Scotty's there, but he's also 14-9. I think the biggest surprise actually would be E-Bomb's start, only because, like I said, I loved him taking the 4 pick. That's exactly what I would have done. When he got there though, and saw 3 balanced lineups, he did go up, and I'm glad he went with this guy. Like that's how you should do this. But I was very surprised that like Rory or Scotty, like I like going to the stars and scrubs mode, and he went with John Rahm and Cam Smith, but it was just, all the other values on the board. And then the fact that he could have had Rory or Scotty if he was, again, he said he wasn't, but worried about that wave. That's kind of the only thing that stood out. The other, Joe and Sia clearly going for the balanced approach. They've got 2 really good players on their teams to start, and E-Bomb's players are good. I'm just saying it was surprising from the 4 pick to then land that way, but I think it's important to go with your guys. So shout out to E-Bomb on that front.
I would agree with that. You got to go get your man in this. And speaking of such, there's 2 for you to go get right now. Who are you starting it with?
Yeah, I'm sticking with my theme here though. And so everything I just said, but just to note it, I'm going to Colin Morikawa, 8,500. He's like the average price on DraftKings. That's to me insane. I know there's other values down the board, and I'll think about that here in a minute. But I talked about this today. Mayo and I did the show with Blickle, and we talked through some of this stuff. And it's like, we talk a lot about, are you picking the golfer for who they are or who they've been lately? And in most cases, I've been against, course history and things like that forever. And I'm always talking about recent form and what have you done for me lately? And it's not like he hasn't done anything. I'm just noting it. I get what it is, but he's also, that's priced in. He's 8,500, but I'm definitely picking golfers at majors for kind of like letting others make mistakes. And we talked about that with like the 5K range being involved on DraftKings this week, and how, yeah, you could try and pick your diamond in the rough down there, or you could just let others do that, and you hope to go somewhere else and get your lineup different in many other ways. So for me, I'm going to start with Morikawa here and keep it rolling from there. That still leaves me over 7,800 like you've got up there on the screen. So I think this is where it gets a little more tricky, because it comes down with giving away full strategy, like you said, but like the idea of what do you think of the board that's left? And then I got to think about, again, it's not going to come back to me for a while. So I actually think I'm going to get my value play now, and I'm going to go down, and I'm going to stick with the Canadian theme. I'm going to get my guy Corey Connors at 6,500. I like the approach. Again, more of a who he is. It's Corey Connors. I don't think he's going out and winning this thing. It's clearly priced in at $6,500. If I can get like a T30 out of him or better, again, a made cut, like all this stuff, and then move it up from there, I think he does enough that he can just kind of grind his way through it. But what I don't want to do right now is sort of put myself with another spot and then have to figure it all out later. I like the middle of the board, and it's clear that's kind of how I'm going to land out here, but I still have options depending on what these other guys do. So that's where I'm at for right now, but I do like this start.
What I find to be particularly interesting about your start here, especially with the Morikawa pick, is if you recall earlier this year, Carlin Morikawa wasn't playing great. His price came all the way down to the 7K range. No one was talking about him. Colin Morikawa in the 7K range is crazy. He went on to win the tournament. And now we're running back here. Now, this time around, it's a little bit different, because I think people are a little bit injury concerns about Morikawa, more so than just not playing well. So I guess that's my question to you. Do you feel confident in the injury? I know he's played through it and he's played well, but do you feel confident that he's ready to go, or do you think there's still lingering back issues?
No, I think it's going to be fine. And I think like that's what's funny about DFS too. And I've made fun of that one for years too. And people just, again, if anyone said it here, I apologize. But like when people are like, oh, we need injury reporters and stuff like that. Like, again, when I see Joe at these events asking the hard hitting questions, I love that. And if you can do it, great. And the more we can bring back from that, the better. Sure. But it's like, what does it really mean? Last week, Victor Hovland, said, he's going to try his way through and see how it goes. Okay. Third. Like, it's beware the injured golfer. Oh, the worst round of my life on the practice range. I don't know how it just came to me today, but I shot a 64 now and I've got a chance to go win this thing tomorrow. It's like, it's all the time with that stuff. Even like the Brooks stuff today. I like Knapp is someone I'd be worried about for sure. His stuff doesn't sound great, but like Brooks, it's Brooks Koepka. If he shows up here, I would have, not just because his past and his history and all. It's just like, I just don't know if it's that serious. So I have to wait and see. But I think from a DFS perspective, we know he'll be low owned. But for me, it's like a guy like Morikawa. I'm just going to base it off the price. Everything's baked into me, and I'm going to roll it out there.
Boom. I love it. Morikawa and Connors off the board. Joe, your balanced approach as a start with Fitzpatrick and Henley looks pretty good. You still have about 8,300 per pick left. Where are you going from here?
Yeah, I want to accumulate some more cash in my remaining balance. So I'm going to go with my value guy as well. Just to touch on what Tambo said about Morikawa, I have no concerns either. If anything, like the guys that you get concerned about are the guys that won't tell you about their injury and will hide it. Like he's been overly forthcoming, almost like he's like milking it. Like he's been playing well and still trying to tell us that he's super injured. Baby swag too for Morikawa. So congrats to him. That's why he skipped the Memorial. So wasn't concerned that was an injury related. Good picks by Tambo. I'm going to go my value guy and go into the 6K range and grab Mav McNeely. I feel like he's got a top 30. Like same thing with him. I don't think he's going to win this tournament, but top 30 and 5 out of 6 coming off a good performance at Memorial. I think he's steady enough, and I trust his short game to a degree where I think it's in the top third of the field in terms of guys who can chip and putt, that he can manage to scramble in difficult conditions. So I'm going to take my 6K guy and build a little bit more bankroll for the future rounds. Grab McNeely.
Solid value pick off the board. I've said this before on this show. I have to ask Spencer. Spencer's model always loves Maverick McNeely. So I want to confirm, Spence, does your model love McNeely again this week? Wait, Spence, you're on mute.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what we've done when I'm backstage now. I'm off, so we'll just put me back on the screen when I talk. But yeah, it loves Maverick McNeely once again. It's kind of been an every week thing. I've been chasing Maverick McNeely, it feels like, the entire year. I had tons of exposure to him at the Masters, tons of exposure to him at the PGA Championship. Have him across the board once again. I actually thought, and you saw it a little bit with data golf, not that they are necessarily right or wrong with it, but when you look at some of the made cut numbers that were out in the space early, I thought there were a handful of guys that were way lower than they should have been. And Maverick McNeely, for me, was kind of the king of that response. He's inside of the top 15 of my model when it comes to safety, which is talking about what Joe just spoke of a player that doesn't necessarily win a lot of these events, but is consistently inside of the top 30 week in and week out. And he's in the optimal for me of what my model deems to be optimal. And I'll also throw this out there for whatever this is worth. Russell Henley is also in the optimal right now. So really like what Joe's doing with his lineup.
Optimize me, baby.
Interesting. The early start leans to the person who had the last choice of where they wanted to pick, and he's already got 2 in Spencer's optimal. I find it to be interesting. Sia.
All right. Well,
with your third pick,
Joel, I'm just going to go with my guys. There are some guys that from a betting standpoint, when I first looked at the odds, I liked them, but I just like these guys, and I don't think they get enough respect. I do have the no respect team. Tommy Fleetwood, and all of this is deserved to some degree. Patrick Reed, no respect for non-golf reasons. Let's go to another no respect guy, JJ Spawn. Somebody needs to explain to me why this guy's not getting any love whatsoever. And I'm not saying from a DFS standpoint or ownership. I just mean, like, it seems so unrealistic to people that JJ Spawn can contend in a major. And he's shown us that he can do it in big tournaments and in majors. The ball striking is incredible. We know the putter can come and go. Early in 2026, it was pretty bad for him, pretty much across the board, including around the green, but he's gained around the green in 5 tournaments in a row. The putter, again, can come and go, but you can say that about pretty much any golfer on the planet. I think JJ Spawn at 7,500 is tremendous value.
do you like JJ Spawn to win back-to-back U.S. Opens, or you just like him to maybe get a top 10, have a good result?
So I take offense to the question, Joel, because it implies that somebody can't do something twice in a row. I don't look at last year as I analyze JJ Spawn this year. I think JJ Spawn is good enough, especially at his betting number and his DFS price, to really have high impact at the US Open. And that does include potentially winning the tournament. I genuinely do not care about what happened last year, whether he finished first, second, 10th, or 100th.
Really quickly from that, it also implies, as Sia just said, that he has to win this tournament at his price tag of 7,500. He doesn't need that to pay this off. This is a top 20 golfer in the world that I don't think really gets treated as such. So I'll let you take this back over, Joel, but I just kind of wanted to double down that take because I think far too often the community as a whole overvalues and overweights recent results, even if the recent result is from one major ago. Because you did it, you can't do it now. Because you've done it in the past, you can do it now. Like, none of this really matters. Like, we're trying to build a portfolio and a profile of every single golfer of how does it best fit for the course that we have at hand right now. And if that golfer has the skill set to be able to do so, whether they've won or lost, I think Sia's point is very prudent in the way that he explained it. I kind of just wanted to give my 2 cents on it, but I'll kick it back to you, Joel.
Well, I will say the point is fair, and I think we mentioned off air last week, so I'll mention it for everyone. As Rory McIlroy proved, he could win the Masters twice before the Jets could record a single interception. So you're right. Just because he did it once doesn't mean it won't happen again. All right, E-Bomb, you got 2 more. Rahm and Cam Smith off the board. Where are you going from here?
I can easily say my lineup's going to be absolutely the craziest. I mean, I'm just looking at this lineup now, all this balance, all this like even play for the most part. It's going to get weird here. I'm taking some value here. I'm taking Ryan Fox. He's a guy that's just been playing well in the elevated events, and he's just been looking good of late. And for 6,300, it really opens up the salary for me. So I'm going to go with Ryan Fox, take a chance on him here.
Ryan Fox off the board. You got 2 value plays, and what I find really interesting right now is that you all are within the same relative mid 8K range with your average salary left remaining pick. So the end of this draft could get pretty competitive and interesting as you're targeting potentially some similar names. But E-Bomb, with your 4th pick, what do you like?
This is so funny because I'm just going to look like a live stand over here, but I'm really not. It's just how it's working out here. I'm going to take Terrell Hatton. He's just been playing really well. Tough conditions. Talk about the baby swag. He's one of those baby swag guys as well. He has a new look on life, a happier Hatton, if you will. Maybe that'll lead to a major championship, but he's a dog, and I'm more than happy to take him to the spot, and I think you're getting really good value with him. And this just is looking like the live team over here, but this is what I'm rolling with here. Okay, right.
Can everybody hear me now?
Yeah.
We might just have to keep me on the screen, Joel, for the rest of this. But no, Hatton has one of my favorite quotes that I've seen so far this week. He was talking about every single player comes to this US Open and, you think about all these head case moments that we've seen from Hatton. And he's like, everybody comes back to my grounds right now of all this implosion that you see from me. Now everybody has to feel it at the US Open. And I do think there's something to be said about it. Like, there are certain players that are able to grind on similar tests. And my model also liked Hatton quite a bit. Like, the Hatton Reeds of the world really made a lot of sense. So I think Joel kind of talked about it. I was going to mention it myself here. Everybody's in the same range. We saw E-Bomb just take one of those options that's in that general range. As I kick it to you, Sia, do you plan to deviate and put yourself into a different spot with this next pick? Is there a general strategy in a zone that you want to be in? I'll let you make the selection here.
What's really interesting is Hatton was probably going to be my next pick, but I'm actually glad it was taken from me because it sort of makes my strategy and my decision a lot easier because I don't have that option anymore. And so now I'm actually thinking I'm later on a guy that's not going to be very popular for this draft. I'm thinking of waiting to grab that person. So now I'm debating between 2 guys in the low 7K range. Now I've gone with all AM guys. So apparently I'm kind of all in there, and I'm debating between 2 guys. One is in the AM and one is in the PM. And so because they're about the same price, I guess I'm just going to go with the AM guy, even though I'm not completely sold that I could get completely wrecked if I'm wrong about this wave, but it's not a guy I usually take, and I don't think he can win. But Siwoo Kim is only 7,200, and he's doing everything right. I mean, like JJ Spawn, I feel like Siwoo Kim's kind of like enjoying some of the same strokes gain metric success as JJ Spawn. And the putter hasn't been terrible, although it can be. The short game's been good, and we know the ball striking, just like JJ Spawn, has been very good. This is a very reasonable price. I'm half expecting him to let me down, but he's 7,200 and might be as low as I go with this balanced build. Happy to take him at that price.
So price per the dollar per amount, if you compare it in my model, the best value, like if we get into the nitty gritty here, is Siwoo Kim at 7,200 for a lot of the reasons that Sia just spoke of. And I think when you look at Siwoo Kim, and I've kind of made this argument on a couple shows so far this week, give him one victory anywhere this season. What does this price look like?
Yeah.
Give him a second victory, because there's been a lot of times where he could have gotten one and a second one. What does this price look like? Like, whether I'm right or wrong on this, we will see. One, I think Siwoo is in the best version of his career that we've ever seen. The form that he is exuding is at the highest level of this. Two, even if you look at when Wyndham chased him down at the CJ Cup, that was not of his own doing. He did far more than enough to win that. I think he shot a 65 and couldn't get across the finish line after having a multiple shot lead. Like, those are things beyond your control. I think Siwoo is one of the best values on the board. I've been talking about names that are inside of the optimal. This is the number one name inside of the optimal for me. So love the Siwoo Kim pick. Honestly, love what everybody's doing so far. And as I kick it to you, Joe, I want to ask you a question, because Tambo kind of alluded to this at the very beginning. And, you know, we've worked together in the past at various companies, and we've worked alongside, and I know how great of the work that you put out is. You've kind of transitioned a lot, I would say, over the last year or so, to where you are out there, you are on the front lines of a lot of these tournaments. You are speaking to players and you are having conversations, and you're getting a lot of the information that, you know, myself specifically, I don't have access to the players the way that you do. Talk a little bit about that experience. Talk about how it's helped you to become a better. Anything that you've taken away from that?
Well, it's interesting. A lot of that, for me at least, has come through the indoor sim league, right? So it's come at TGL. So it's been beneficial to me because there's less media covering it, and I can kind of form some of those relationships with some of the guys. It's helped me, I would say, to understand some of the nuances that are going on inside the lives of the player, like that we don't often see, and how that can affect performance within the ropes. So it's definitely been an interesting experience. It's been super fun to be able to kind of stand in front of them, and nerve-wracking to ask many of them questions. Some of it uneasy for them, some of it uneasy for me, but it's been an amazing experience, something that's invaluable. And I think that translating it for me into the betting lens is tough to draw the straight lines there, because I'm not in depth enough with them and have enough of a bond where I feel like they're just giving me the answer that they're supposed to say, or something that's real yet. So different players have different ideas about that. But it's been an awesome experience for sure. Thank you.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And you ask the hard-hitting questions. There's been a bunch of clips that you've done over the time that have gone viral, and I think there's a reason why it resonates with everybody who's listening. So keep up all the great work with that. All right, Matthew Fitzpatrick, Russell Henley, Maverick McNeely. You're going to have to add a player to that list right now. Where are you going, Joe?
It's funny that you brought that up, because I've gotten to know this player a little bit through TGL. I think he's very misunderstood. I think he's complicated, but also can be very misunderstood. And I think he's actually a really cool dude to hang out with if you can. But I'm going to take Wyndham Clark, $7,800. Obviously, he has his ups and downs, like myself and like many people do emotionally through life, and there have been some terrible moments that he regrets, but I think right now is not one of those times. He's playing great golf, and he rides the floor to ceiling elevator like no one. I talked about this with John. When it's bad, he is on the basement level in the laundry room of terrible, shitty PGA Tour players. When it's good, he's in the penthouse suite. And it's good right now, and he's a former U.S. Open winner. And I think this course is actually a decent fit for his game with the wider fairways. And the short game's been pretty tidy lately. He's got a hot putter. Give me Windy C at 7,800.
Yeah, I'll keep this very short on my end. I want to make sure we get to Tambo's 2 picks and we'll push this draft along. I know it's been running for a while now, but I think there's a groupthink mentality. Wyndham's very close to my heart. This is somebody that, yeah, we can talk about like the 2 outright tickets that I hit on him, that one of them, I mean, maybe the US Open one might honestly be the one that like kind of put me more cemented on the map. And that's something that I will never forget personally. And I feel this affinity towards him for those reasons. And I was actually talking to my girlfriend about this the other day. I understand that he's done things regrettable in the past, whether we want to talk about destroying the locker room at LACC or not LACC, but at the US Open last year or 2 years ago, whenever it was. But I want to say this very, very quickly about Wyndham. And just when you look at this, there is a human element that comes into play. I think golfers sometimes don't get viewed in the same lens as we see with a football player, a basketball player. There are football players that destroy locker rooms, but because they are football players and they are rough and they are these brute forces, it gets overlooked. I understand there's a prestige and a pedigree to golf and this gentleman's sport that gets played, but I never loved the compounding nature and the compiling that everybody did on him with it. And I think there is a human element behind him. And I think as people hear him talk, he's a lot more likable than you think he is. So, I mean, that's more of a rant that I wanted to go with this, but anytime I get the ability to talk about Wyndham Clark and I think that it needs to be said, and hopefully we can have this change over the next couple of years where people view him in a different light. But like everything you said about that. And as we kick it to you, Tambo, I'll give it to you these really fast. I won't ask you any background questions into this. Just tell me what your 2 next picks are.
Yeah, I will say just to the Wyndham point you said, again, everybody's human. And I like how Joe brought that up. We've had good talks about that. I know Sia does a ton of stuff with his podcast and going through the mindset factor of things. It's like, yes, they're human. People make mistakes. I hope people can, understand that we all do. But the other side of it is, when you said about like golf in general, that's what I was teasing the other week when it's like Scott, the biggest story in golf is Scotty was like, golly gee, Ed, we can't be off with the wind. And they act like that he went crazy or something. It's like, he didn't do anything. Like that's not even a story. It's just, it's awesome that they didn't talk over him for once so we could hear what he said to his caddy. That was actually the coolest part to us as golf fans sitting at home. But just to note it, I wish there was a little bit more of that stuff. It doesn't need it. It's not meant for this game. All these other things, like anything like that shows the human side of it. That's why, like Full Swing, everybody liked it when it first came out on Netflix. Wyndham was in that as well. That was the human element side. The DJ story of him telling like, yeah, I'm good with the decision. I took the money and I'm happy. The opposite of like Brooks saying, I wasn't sure where I was going to be at. So I kind of took the money in this. And now his story of like changing gears and coming back and getting ahead of it before all the news on the live side. So I don't know. I love anything that you can add just to put fire onto the game. And I think that's part of it. So without further ado, though, I will get to my picks here. And this set up really well. By the way, when he said, Joe, when you set that up, I had my hands on my head because I was like, that everything you said about Wyndham could have been about Patrick Cantlay. That's a little misunderstood, but I've actually had a chance to see him at TGL. But and I'm like, oh, great, here we go. Because my pick is Patrick Cantlay. I want to set that up. It leaves me 2 ways to go, and I'm fine because who cares? Like, just discuss the strategy. It's funny enough, I landed on this. It's all PM AM guys, and I can close it out right now. I'm allowed to like just say it if I do. I might not do this, so I'm just noting it. I can close it out 2 ways just so the viewers and people at home can think about this. I can close it out with a $6,600 golfer and then land on Bryson, who I don't think anybody's going to be able to get to or want to get to up at the top. And it would be able to stay like all PM AM. I would get a guy like Bryson up over the top of Xander. I think it's a little bit aggressive, but I thought about that. But then I looked at it and just thinking about the best on the board, I'm going to take for my pick Ludwig Oberg at $9,200. And now it leaves me, I don't even think people can take my picks with it'll come back to me. They can know my strategy. I think there's 5 guys there that I can roll with. So it doesn't really matter. Now I'm going to get somebody that I'm comfortable with to round it out. And I feel really strong about getting my value play I wanted, and then having a nice balanced build of just guys that I think can all be in the mix, and hopefully one of them contends and wins.
Ludwig and Cantlay up the board. I think that's a great term. Both guys I love this week. Before we move off this, I think that last topic was really interesting, and I want to ask a question. Between the guys like Cantlay and Wyndham Clark, and there are a lot of personalities on the PGA Tour. If there was one guy that you could pick, and we'll go with you here, Tambo, to have followed around for the U.S. Open and basically have a documentary on what their demeanor is like, what their personality is like while they play this event, who would you want to get that look into?
It's a really good question. Wow. Like I definitely have two answers, and I don't know the answer to your actual question, but I'll cop out first and say I'm more intrigued by Rory than most. So I think that, like, he just had a documentary come out on Amazon. There's like more to his story. I think going back just to the thing that nobody ever wants to talk about, like, mental health and things like that. I think like when Rory shows his feelings and people get mad at him, or like, oh, he's crying after a loss. I think there actually is something important to, like, if you have something hit you in a bad way, to sort of let that out, because then it shows how much you care and how much you want it. And that's why it matters so much more when the event actually ends up happening and you see the shackles released from him on that 18th green 2 years ago at the Masters. Like, talk about like a monkey off the back. It looked like one literally unraveled off of him. It was such a show of relief. And then he goes back and just wins the event again the next year. Like, okay, boom, that thing's, that demon's been exercised type of thing. So I would love to go around and just, follow him and be around Rory for the day, but it's just, that's like more of a cop out. Like, who else would be interesting? I'm trying to think, just going down through the board, man, there's just so many golfers here. I don't know. Maybe ask the rest of the group. I can't think of somebody else that just stands out to me there, but I would definitely pick Rory if I only got one choice on who I could follow around for the U.S. Open.
I think Rory was a great pick. So I think it's a very fair answer. Joe, you're the one who now is building a lot of relationships with these guys. You might know them. You do know them a bit better than the rest of us. I would love to get your answer to this same question.
Yeah, the one guy that I don't know at all, because he's not involved whatsoever in many of the tournaments that I cover, is Bryson. And I think that it would just be so interesting to walk with him and listen to the conversations with his caddy and understand the process and where he attacks. But Tambo nailed it. Like, Rory, just a lot of these guys, you ask them questions and they will give you like a pre-calculated answer from their agent. Rory will take a second and almost look, and you can see him thinking about your question and will give you a real answer. And sometimes that works in his favor, and sometimes it's great, and sometimes it comes out and people will criticize him for what he says. But he at least will give you thought into every answer that he says, which I think would make it a very unique experience within the ropes, because he's going to give you a genuine experience that I'm not sure every guy will.
That's fair. So there you have it. So, and Tambo, in your defense, Rory was a good pick. So there you have it.
Yeah, I feel like again, I think a lot of people would pick one of the better golfers. But I mean, if you want entertainment value, the other one that I thought of was E-Bomb's guy over there, followed around Tyrrell Hatton. Would definitely be an experience in its own right. Just imagine being inside the ropes. We watched it on TV and we're laughing and having a good time. Being inside the ropes with him and just hearing it live and getting him to go through the motions like that, just pretty incredible stuff. But yeah, I like those two picks for my end.
Ooh. All right, Joe, you got another pick here. You got your fifth pick. You have plenty of money to spend at 9,200. Where are you going from here?
I'm going to spend my money now just because I'm worried that he gets scooped up here. And a lot of the guys, frankly, that I was interested in, Ludwig, Tommy, Xander, are gone. I don't really want Brooks, even though he's my guy in this format. I do have concerns this week. Uncertain about Bryson, although I do think he has value on the odds board. I'm going to take Cam Young. 10-5. I'm going to spend my dollars. All things are coming up New York right now, so we'll see if Cam Young can have a good week this week. I do worry, in the thought process, and Tambo is so thoughtful and strategic and kind of stacking waves that I'm sort of all over the place with this lineup and will probably end up biting me in the butt. But I feel like I've grabbed the guys that I want to grab, and I feel like the majority of them have good upside. So I'm going to take Cam Young, and it'll kind of open up my options with $8,000 remaining for my last pick.
I think my one clarifying question I have for you on that pick is, do you think there's a real edge to Cam Young because he grew up in New York and he maybe was closer to the course, played it a few more times, or is it more just a he is in the area, so there's just kind of like vibes to it.
I don't think that's an edge. I mean, I think there's going to be a comfort level probably on this sort of northeast greens, but I don't think there's anything. His edge is that like from a very rudimentary like idiot level diving into metrics, like you pull up DraftKings and it gives you the most basic stat ever, fantasy points per game. He's the second best player of the field. Like he's very, very good and he wins a lot. And I think he's probably the fourth or fifth best player in the field and most likelihood to win this week. So that's why I'm taking him.
Fair enough. I love it.
New Captain America too.
That's right, man.
So U.S. Open, Cam Young, in the area, like you said. And for what it's worth, I did go off the wave stack with Ludwig, by the way, too. So he's an AM guy, so I risked it, but it's only because it sort of gives me a nice finishing place. But I love that Cam Young call, and I was wondering if you were going to try and like risk it all and go up even higher, but it would have been a pretty bad spot down low, and I like the call.
What I find so unique about this show and King of the Draft is in the 5th round of this draft, you're getting Ludwig and Cameron Young just going off the board, which are two of the better players in the field, but they're not going off until the 5th round, which is interesting. Sia, you got almost 9K per pick left. Where are you going from here?
So I gambled and it didn't pay off because it was very important to my lineup construction that I got Cam Young. And in retrospect, I could have taken him instead of Siwoo and then just settled with somebody in that low 7K range that probably wouldn't have been in the right quote wave stack. But Cam Young was definitely my next pick. I had it all plotted out, and I'm still going to make this lineup with Cam Young and somebody in the low 7K range for DFS. But unfortunately, a lot of the top players are gone, and I don't think I can afford. I can technically afford Rory, but I can't really because it leaves me with 5,500. I obviously can't afford Scotty. I'm not interested in Bryson. And Brooks, the injury does scare me enough for me to not play him. So I'm just going to have to play a balanced lineup, extremely balanced, and leave money on the table because I don't think there's another option for me. So I'll go with another guy that I think has upside. I really wanted the Cam Young win equity, but I'll go with Chris Gotterup. I don't think he's been taken yet. 8,200, Chris Gotterup. I feel like the form could be better, but we love Chris Gotterup on wind-affected tracks, right? In difficult conditions, whether you want to call this link style or not, that's where we've seen him succeed in a pretty big way. He certainly has some upside. I think he has a lower floor too. I really wish I had Cam Young, but I don't have that option.
As we already said, not that it means that much, but I'm also going to give Chris Gotterup some homer vibes. He's a New Jersey native, not New York, but it's close enough, so it counts that he's basically playing near his hometown. Love Chris Gotterup, 8,200 off the board. Before you pick E-Bomb, I have a question for you. My eyes are bad, so I apologize. Is that an American flag on your hat?
Yes, it is. That's actually the last tournament that Patrick Cantlay won at, to be honest. I was there live, and I actually ran into BK and your co-host, Joe. I ran into PGA Tao.
Heck yeah.
Over at the Wilmington Country Club in Delaware.
Awesome.
The reason I ask is because you don't have an American on your team. And you only have 2 picks left. So you're wearing an American hat. It's the U.S. Open, and you only player that hasn't drafted an American golfer. So you have 2 picks to right the ship. How are you rounding out your squad?
I was looking at my New Jersey native, my own New Jersey own Chris Gotterup. That was going to be my next pick. So Sia took him. I'm actually absolutely shocked. I thought it was going to fall perfectly to me to get Chris Gotterup. But I am actually not going to take an American, which is outrageous. This lineup's absolutely crazy. I'm going for a full home run swing at this point. I'm taking Justin Rose at 8,400. He is a big game hunter at the end of the day. He hasn't won, but he's been in those like top 10, top 5s. Everybody loved him at the Masters. I picked him up at 110-1 for the U.S. Open during that Masters time. He's down to 40-1 in some books now. So I think there's some true value with him. So I am taking Justin Rose.
Justin Rose off the board. And I agree. He tends to rise to the occasion in these big tournaments. And obviously the U.S. Open is one of those, the 8,400. There's some value there. With your last pick, you promised us it wouldn't be an American. How are you rounding out the squad?
Yeah, this is kind of an audible over here because I was going to do the whole Gotterup Rose duo, but I'm going to do Victor Hovland. He looked really good last week. It's major time. I know there's a lot of high rough around the area, so typically that works into his around the green play. And, and he's a good first-round guy in general, so maybe if he kind of holds ground and he's playing well, this could be a tournament where he hangs around. So this is kind of my late audible, but I'm going to take Victor Hovland.
Yeah, I mean, Joel talked about the uniqueness of this show where you have people like Ludwig Obert and Cameron Young going off in the 5th round. Like, for me, my favorite takeaway of this show every single time we do it, and even more so now that we've added more names and more drafters and all of this, is just the unique compilations of lineups that you get from top to bottom. It's almost across the board that you have heard from every single person on this show, including Sia here, like, who has wanted certain players as Cameron Young, where you have to deviate. You have to be quick on your feet to change what you want to do. And for that reason, you never get that rudimentary expected output of the names that are going to be like the easy click. You kind of have to get grimy in a lot of these spots, and you have to build things more unique to make these lineups work once somebody's off the board. And we can talk about soft pricing, and sure, that maybe makes it a little bit easier for a tournament like this, but it doesn't make it easy, as you know, Sia. Like, I mean, there's been struggle on a lot of these picks, and I will say I really like the Goddard pick. I really like the Siwoo Kim pick. I think you're doing a great job with this lineup, and as you said, you have 9,500 left over. You said you were going to leave a little bit of money on the table. How much is a little bit to you?
Well, you know what's so interesting is that I don't really have a choice at this point. I'm going to have to take a risky pick, and I'm going to have to spend all my money because everybody under Brooks Koepka, and unless I'm seeing this wrong, because I would have taken Justin Rose as well, by the way. I'm not taking Justin Thomas. I'm not saying he's a bad pick, but I'm not going to take Justin Thomas. I don't think he's been taken. Outside of him, everybody's been taken between 9,400 and Hideki Matsuyama at 7,600. So either I'm going down to the mid 7K and leaving 2,000 on the table, or I'm taking the risk on Brooks Koepka that he's going to play hopefully not 2 but 4 rounds with the nerve issue that he has. I mean, I watched his press conference today. He seemed pretty confident. His words weren't as confident as his demeanor was, in my opinion. But with that said, it's either take this gamble, which might end up paying off really well, the way he typically has been striking it in 2026 and maybe turned it around with the putter. It's either take that gamble or leave 2,000 on the table with a guy I also don't want. So give me Brooks Koepka. Also AM PM. My whole lineup happens to be AM PM.
This is one of those spots to even further elaborate of what we were talking about of it's weird pricing this week. You have the top of the board that goes all the way up to Scotty, which everybody decided to leave Scotty on the board, and we can have a discussion at the end of why that is and if you think there's any optimal routes to go towards Scotty. I do have a take. We can talk about that in a second, but you guys, as we kind of have said the entire show, everybody was in the same range over and over again. And I think we, as Joel alluded to, we have now reached that point where it has become sticky for these last couple picks because you either, one, have to take somebody that you didn't plan to go to, or two, leave such an egregious amount of money on the table that you may be taking a worse golfer. So we just saw that right now from Sia. Joe, where are you sitting with your pick?
I mean, I think that based on what I have left and who's available, there's an obvious one there, and it's probably Sam Burns, but I'm not going to take Sam Burns. I'm going to leave this is kind of wild, but I'm going to leave $1,000 on the table, and I'm going to take Robert McIntyre.
Whoa.
I believe in the upside of Bobby Mack. I think that he maybe found a little bit of something in Canada last week. He's been just crushing it off the tee all year. The iron play is certainly a concern, but he is awesome. He's like, you have to have shots and you have to have guts around these greens, and I think that he has both. He is a shot maker. He embraces super tough conditions. He's kind of built for a U.S. Open played on this style of golf course. Obviously, the solo second place last year at Oakmont should further boost his confidence. Fourth at the Players as well. Not afraid of the moment, and I love that about him. So I'm going to leave a lot on the table and take a chance and ignore probably the smart play and go with my gut and take Bob Mack.
Number 4 in my model in strokes gained total at hard scoring courses. You look at any of these recent trending metrics that are important for this venue. He also sees an uptick there. I see him at 7.5% ownership right now. I don't know if anybody has that egregiously different from where I have it, but look, it's it's one of those things. And like specifically for this show, you have one opportunity to try to advance. I think grabbing your guy is probably the best way to go about it. And that's something we saw Tambo do at the start by bucking what some people would think to be conventional wisdom, not starting with Scotty Scheffler, continuing this whole path where Scotty did not go off the board. And we've seen Tambo go Xander, Colin Morikawa, Corey Connors, Patrick Cantlay, Ludwig Oberg. Very balanced lineup here at the end of the day. Another balanced pick that can come here at the end. Before you give us that selection, Tambo, I do want to hear your take on this. Did you consider at all Scotty Scheffler in your build? And if not, I mean, I think we can talk about the obvious of how it's more difficult to potentially get a lineup how you want it to be if you're trying to go in this more balanced approach. But talk a little bit about your strategy involving Scotty and why he was not the pick.
Yeah, really, it's just a format for sure. Like it's the 4-man. Obviously, you said the elephant in the room of like 14-9 and what the whole lineup ends up looking like. But for this format, I think you could see, and it's definitely a cut event. It's definitely a chaos type event. Like look at my lineup right now, and the other ones look just as good. Like this is gonna be a tricky week for whoever gets through. Awesome, but it's like this is gonna be a battle, and it could be 4 or 6, could be 5. You could have ended up with a Scotty winner and not been involved because it's like the setup of you still have nothing else coming with it. So here, if it's a 5 or 6, but like only 2 guys are contending, but the 5 or 6 helps, then well, that's going to be really good. So I really thought about it from that perspective. There was, like I said, a chance even when I took the Ludwig pick to go over the top of Xander with a Bryson and could have at least fit that far. If I had made a little bit different picks along the way and not with Morikawa, I could have tightened it up and maybe got to a Rory and then dropped down from there or something like that. But for me, I'm very comfortable. I was very happy with this setup. And in the end, I kind of wanted Rose, but Hovland, Gotterup, JT, all these guys that were there, I was fine with that. And then worst case, I was going to go down to Hideki, but I am going to just finish it out with Justin Thomas. I've got the money. I talked about earlier. It's like who they are and what they've been doing lately. First of all, it's not that bad for him. All these like recent top 20s could have been top 10s and then be a little bit different story. 2, he's below the average price on DraftKings. 3, regardless of his US Open history, especially of late, it's just the setup to me is like, it's all about this week, this event. I think, in looking back, he was like top 20 or top 30 or something when they played here last in 2018 as well. So it's like, I'm not that matters at all. I'm just noting, like, I guess I'm just not worried about it at that price. He rounds up the lineup. It makes sense to me. So I'm very comfortable with that. I think Sia, you would have regretted not taking Brooks. So I'm sad that you took him from a competitor standpoint. I was like, man, if he's not taking Brooks, I'm like, that seems crazy. And I know it's a big risk, but I think you would have regretted it, not because of the result and who knows what's going to happen. I just think it was the right thing. And the fact that it fit your AM PM stack, hopefully it works out for you, my friend, but hopefully not for my perspective, but for you, I think it was a really good call.
Thanks.
Tambo, am I going to regret not taking Sam Burns?
I don't think so. I think you did the right thing too. And this is back to like my thing about E-Bomb earlier. It wasn't a shot at E-Bomb as much as like you got to take your guys in that spot. And it's like the quintessential DFS thing, right? Where, I got this money left, got to spend it all. It's like, literally don't. You can put anybody you want in this lineup right now. And especially when it's that close, you're talking about 7,700 or 7K. DraftKings just decided that's where their prices go. It's like there's no, whoever comes through, like Mac could smash him this week, but Burns obviously in good form and everything that goes with him there. But I think you're going to be just as happy that you took your guy instead of taking what you think or others think you should take there.
That is a wrap for the draft tonight. These are 4 solid teams. I think it's going to be a really competitive week. It's going to be a lot of fun at this US Open. Thank you to each of you for coming on and drafting with us. I apologize for going a little bit over, but before we get you guys out here, we'd love to learn where we can find you each this week for moving forward with your content, and give us your favorite bet of the week as we kind of sign out. We'll start with you. We'll go in backwards order from the draft. So we'll start with you, E-Bomb.
All right, well, you can find me on Twitter X at Chris E-Bomb. Keep it simple. I'm always rising and firing with all sorts of bets. And my favorite bet this week, I do it pretty much about every week. I do a parlay / round robin 3 and 4. I do top 20, including ties in the first round. These are my guys. I got Patrick Reed, Maverick McNeely, who I love. I think he's going to be first round leader this week, to be honest with you. Xander Schauffele, Tyrrell Hatton, and Sam Burns. If all of them hit, it pays about 260 to 1, but you only need to hit 3 out of 5 to double your money. So, It's a boomer. You're feeling froggy. You want to leap. That's the bet. You want to have some good sweat on Thursday. That's the move.
So I really like your call on the Matt McNeely first round leader. I'm thinking about taking out a mortgage and just taking out some money on my mortgage and just betting it all on him. So
I dig it.
I think you're on to something there. Sia will tell you about my mortgage bets as we've been doing this a long time. Sia, where can everyone find you? What bet do you like this week?
Yeah, by the way, those first round leader bets, we used to say like put your mortgage on it because they are finicky bets, but they're so fun. Okay, so you find me on Twitter. I like kind of retweet all my content. So at Sia Nejad on Twitter. If you're interested in the non-sports content, let me know. I've got a free Discord, mental health, motivation related that I know Joe is super familiar with. Tambo, you shouted it out as well. So appreciate you guys for that. Best bet, top Korean. You can find this price on DraftKings at -132. Siwoo Kim over Sung Jae-im and Tom Kim. -132, I think, is a really great price. It's effectively a 3-ball top Korean, but other books have this at like -150, -160. And as of my early wedge showtime, 7 o'clock, it was still -132. So I like that. And while we're here, first round leaders, we're going to AM, Fleetwood, Patrick Reed, JJ Spahn, and Kurt Kitayama.
Boom. There you have it. I love it. All right, Joe, looking for you. Where can we find you this week? And what's your favorite bet of the week?
Yeah, buddy. Appreciate you having me at Tour Picks on Twitter, or X, as they say now. Preferred Lines podcast is out. Recorded that up Sunday night. Go check that out with John Hazelbauer. We do that, and it's been powered by the good folks over at Read the Line all year. We're giving away $250 this week, so go over to that podcast. Drop us a comment in the YouTube channel, and you'll be entered into a drawing there. Favorite bet this week, I'm just going to kind of tag team and parlay it off my last pick in the draft. I do have Robert McIntyre 80-1. He is +260 to finish top 20 this week. Love his form. Love his upside. Love the guts like I spoke about, because this tournament is going to take fortitude. I mean, this is a physical test that requires a specimen with the broad shoulders of the man from Oban. I'm going to take Bob Mack in pretty much all markets, as I did in DFS here. Golf Digest preview article is out now as well. Appreciate you guys for having me on. It's been incredible to see all of you here. Thanks again, guys.
Thank you, Bobby Mack. It is. All right, Tambo, last but not least, where can we find you? What's your favorite bet of the week?
Yeah, you can find me on X at Totag and Tambo, over at Ship It Nation, of course, with the crew. Got everything covered for you there. Tomorrow morning, 10:30 a.m. Eastern, me and my guy Blickle will be on the Ship It Nation YouTube station breaking down Leverage Lane, which is a fun show. And I'm tailing his bet for this one. He talked me into this one today. It's Hideki Matsuyama. I mentioned him at the end there, just going to him. But he's had this thing with the each way top three. And he broke it all down from a good math perspective. That's why I love having him on. That's not really my main forte. I bring him on for that and more. He's super sharp, but at 110-1. So I'm good with that. So I'm gonna tail him on that. I am gonna tail this McNeely first round leader because I'd be very sad to be left out from that group. And I gave Sia some praise. I gotta say, like Joe said, happy to be on with all of you guys. But I gotta go back at you now, Sia, betting against my man Sung Jae-im. That's not gonna end well. I said you would regret leaving Brooks on the board, but you're also going to regret going against my guy, Sung Jae. And I love Siwoo this week, but Sung Jae can always pop. Mayo was talking today some stuff about Joe, our stopping grounds in Florida there at the DFS Open, going back to that event, watching Sung Jae get the W. It's like he was talking about the guys that sort of have showed up there, whether it's, Lowry, the Sepp Straka's, the Fleetwoods, that a lot of them came across with open history and then link style golf, and then obviously bringing it across to Shinnecock as well. So I thought that was kind of interesting. And then lastly, Tambo tangent here, but I do want to say this, it's important. So I did want to just, use this platform just to make sure everybody knows that James, our friend Degenerate75, who passed away last year, long battle with cancer. We did a GoFundMe for him last year, and a ton of people showed up. A lot of the folks here, a lot of people online on X, across the board, and the entire DFS and fantasy sports community showed up for that. And we appreciate all of you, and I know his family does as well. We did, some donations to different groups and things that he wanted them done to, and his family had said, like, do this. But then his mom had also said, what he had wanted is us to continue to live on his legacy, put something out there that the community can all enjoy. And so we took the GoFundMe money, and then on top of it, added some more from Ship It Nation and et cetera, and put that in. But we have the big guy event, the first ever, hopefully of many, that is going to be August 21st in Las Vegas. It's a 7:30 to 10:30 p.m. event at the D Casino and Hotel. It's the sister resort and hotel of Circa. So it's pretty cool. They helped us out. Jeffrey Bazant's in there. I think his name is Benson. I can't remember, but Jeffrey is amazing, the guy over at Circa, and he's awesome. He helped us out a ton. So shout out to him. But it is going to be a fun event. Everyone is welcome. It's not a Ship It Nation thing. It's for all the DFS community. You can go to shipitnation.com/the-big-guy-event or just hit me up. I posted it on X. You can check it out there. There's ways to get in and join us just so we have a head count and know who's coming, get your drink tickets, all of that. But if you can make it, it's going to be a really good time. And a lot of people want to get like their Circa Survivor entries and things like that in. But if you didn't know James, one of the best human beings out there, a true one of one. And we're really excited that we're able to put this thing on in his name and that everybody is welcome to come out and celebrate it and enjoy it.
That is really, really awesome.
Amazing.
Thank you guys for putting that together and putting that forth.
Yeah.
I'll say this one last time. You guys are four of the sharpest minds in the DFS and the content space. I really mean that. Anyone who doesn't follow you should definitely do so. But you're also four just great guys. So it's not just being good at what you do. You're being good people. So thank you guys for coming on, for drafting with us. I wish you luck this week. I hope two of you do a good job, advance to next week, and we'll get you on for the next head-to-head round of this tournament. Spence, did I forget anything?
No, I love what Tambo just said. Sia and Joel and I were very fortunate to be able to do a show with him, and it was right around the time that he right before actually he had announced that he was going to take a leave away. And one of the big things that I took away from that is just how much energy and how lively, even knowing that information that he had not revealed yet. And it's something that's really resonated with me throughout the entire time of being in this space and sense of hearing his passing. And, everything that Ship It Nation does and everything that Tambo does, like, I reached out to Tambo last year, like they're doing the right things. There are a lot of good people in this space, and that's what this show was meant to be. Like, sure, we're bringing on experts at the end of the day, but there is a camaraderie in this community, and that is what I want. There is a brotherhood that all of us have, and we're all doing this together. We're all trying to strive for whatever it is that we are looking for. And, Sia does a great job with his mental health show, and I know Joe, like that is something that he has also over the course of time on Preferred Lines always talked about, and you can always hear that. And it's just, I'm very fortunate to be able to call all of you guys friends, and very honored that you guys would take the time out of your day to do this show.
Yeah, one other thing to add, and Tambo, there's no reason for you to know this, but we were fortunate because James is such a good friend to everybody, including myself, for a few years prior to his passing. And when you approached him or whoever from Ship It, I assume it was you, Tambo, about partnering up with him, he and I had some conversations about other stuff too, but we would talk on the phone about that. And I can tell you, and I'm saying this to illustrate what Spencer's talking about these good people in this space. He would have never, and I know you know this, Tambo, but I'm saying it for everybody else. He would have never joined up with Ship It and foregone his brand that he had built if it wasn't for the fact that not only was Ship It a great company, but that it was led by really great people. And like, I'm among many, I'm not exclusive in this category, but I was among the people that talked to him about that stuff before it was a done deal. And I'm just, again, Tambo, I know you know this, but it's very important for me to tell you how valuable you were to the whole relationship. So just wanted to
appreciate
put
that
out
Thanks
there.
for sharing that.
Yeah, I just want to say one more thing as well. When James first started and everything, he was always very approachable. When I used to be more into the content game, he had no problem like coming on my show and doing things, whether it was betting or DFS. But he was just a guy's guy. He never changed. He was always the same person. He got super popular, super fast, and rightfully so. I mean, he was sharp, very funny, witty, and he just had a draw about him. And I mean, what you did for this event and everything for him, that's great, and that's amazing just to keep his legend continuing, because he honestly is a legend. He's an unbelievable guy. Honestly, I could talk to him anytime for the most part on X or whatever, and you would have no problem talking. And he got really busy, so that says a lot. So, and I wasn't somebody that was like a huge name or anything like that. So for him to do that with me, that always meant a lot to me.
I love, and the stories are endless. I think we could probably go on here for another hour about all the great endless stories and fun times. But that's what Tambo is doing a great job of helping to continue that and make sure that does go on. So make sure you give Tambo a follow, attend the events if you can. It really will be a great special event to be at. And of course, good luck this week, gentlemen. We got a fun week of golf ahead of us. It's the US Open. So let's go out there. Let's make some money. Good luck. And hopefully we'll see you in a few weeks.